Did you ask Mr. Kennedy for permission to touch his child?
No.
Did you have anybody's authorization to touch that child?
Objection to form.
Foundation.
No.
Did you violate the HIPAA law?
Objection.
Yes.
Does it say physically? That's an A. Confront or engage the person. Does it say to do that?
No.
I asked whether it was your intention to physically obstruct Mr. Kennedy from walking through the stairwell door.
Objection to form and foundation.
You can answer it.
Yes.
Is there a policy that says a father cannot leave the hospital with his son to get fresh air?
No, my objection to form and foundation.
I join. You can answer it.
No.
Was baby Kennedy a patient of yours?
No.
Was Mrs. Kennedy a patient of yours?
No.
And you were not assigned to Molly Kennedy or Anthony Kennedy
No.
during that day? What did the man in this green scrub say to you at that point?
At some point at the nurse's station, he had said that it was Orwellian to think that a man can take his child outside.
And you didn't think to ask that man in the green scrubs who he was?
It didn't matter who he was.
Did you ever have any training in de-escalation of any type at any time from the hospital during your employment there up to and including January 7, 2012?
No.
Were you attempting to hold Mr. Kennedy's child, Anthony?
Yes.
Objection to form.
Did you ask Mr. Kennedy for permission to touch his child?
No.
Did it occur to you that your very act of trying to hold the baby, taken from Mr. Kennedy to do so, could in and of itself cause harm to the child?
No.
Objection.
Okay. And at the time he allegedly made contact with you, where were your arms?
Reaching forward.
Towards the child?
Yes.
Now, it is true and accurate when you, where you told the detective that you had no bruising, right?
Yes.
And then you went on to tell him that you had substantial pain, numbness to your arms and shoulders and back, which may have been caused when you were knocked down by the force of the kick. Did you tell him that?
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, you did not disclose to him that you had numbness in your arms, radiating from your neck into your left arm, into your right arm, for years and years prior to this incident. Right? You did not tell him that.
I did not.
You wanted the detective of the police department with whom you were frustrated with because they weren't arresting Mr. Kennedy, to think that this was much more violent and severe than it was, because if you knew, the more violent it appeared, the more likely they would be to arrest him.
Objection.
Did you ever tell Detective Pugh the whole truth? And by that I mean the fact that all of these symptoms that you were describing to him had pre-existed this incident?
Objection to
Objection
form.
foundation.
The numbness and the pain.
Objection foundation.
No, never spoke to him about any of it.
Did your head hit the ground?
I believe so.
Okay, let's play back the video that we just had up on the screen, the whole sequence. And I want you to stop us when and if the video depicts a point in time when your head hit the ground. Right?
Okay.
So let's see.
It did not.
Okay. All right. But you have told your doctors on more than one occasion, when you describe these events, that your head hit the ground at least 3 times. Have you ever told doctors that?
I think I might have, yes.
Clearly, that's not true.
Objection to the form and
Correct.
I
foundation.
object to the form also, but you can answer it.
Correct.
I don't want to use the word lie, but that would be a non-truth.
I mean,
If you were to tell people
inaccuracy.
my head hit the ground, not once, twice, but specifically 3 times, that would be a non-truth.
Correct.
And you became frustrated when they wouldn't arrest him, correct?
I was upset.
I don't recall when Mr. Taub contacted the Mount Kisco Police Department. I do understand at some point he had contacted them throughout this whole process.
And he writes to the CEO, "Dear Mr. Seligman, as per your secretary's request, I have attached a copy of my letter to you dated January 19, 2012, which is self-explanatory. It is hoped that you will take appropriate action on this matter with the police and DA," which I assume is district attorney. Do you see where I'm reading from?
Yes.
Douglas Kennedy has been arrested and charged with endangering the welfare of a child, his own child.
Douglas Kennedy, a son of Robert Kennedy, faces charges of endangering the welfare of a child and harassment.
A doctor at that hospital witnessed the whole thing. He strongly defended the TV reporter, saying the nurses were the only aggressors in the situation and that it was incomprehensible to charge Kennedy with a crime.
I was surprised to hear charges coming out of the Westchester County DA's office. He has been charged with violations. Those aren't a crime, but he has also been charged with a misdemeanor, and it's punishable for up to a year in prison. So this is a serious case. It was an ER doctor there at this same hospital.
Who's a witness.
Who's a witness who says that the nurses were the aggressors and not Mr. Kennedy. And so I hope this will never actually end in trial.
Did you know that Mr. Taub had asked for money and an apology in April of 2012 in exchange for a promise that you would withdraw your criminal complaint against him?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me show you the decision, and I have some questions for you about it. You see where Judge Donahue writes, "It is abundantly apparent that the nurses understood it was not the intent of defendant to leave the hospital with the child and not return." You see where I'm reading from?
I see.
And this finding of fact by the court, do you disagree with it? Do you disagree with Judge Donahue's finding of fact?
Yes.
He goes on to write, "It was clear that the defendant was going outside the hospital on an unseasonably warm winter evening for a short period and then returning with the child." You see where I'm reading from?
I do.
And do you disagree with this factual finding of the court? that
I
found
do
Mr.
disagree
Kennedy
with
not
this.
guilty? Do you think that Dr. Haydock got it wrong?
I do.
So Judge Donahue got it wrong and Dr. Haydock got it wrong. Is that right?
Nope.
Do I have that correct?
Objection. You can answer of objection.
Yes. As I fell backwards, the strain and the going back caused the shoulder to tear,
Tear what?
the rotator cuff.
The rotator cuff. Do you know that the MRI taken of your left shoulder, taken after this incident prior to your surgery, showed no tear of your rotator cuff?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know
Not
what the
that I,
MRI showed. if
not
it-
that I
what you were
know,
told.
not that I knew.
Do you see where it says rotator cuff is intact without evidence of full thickness tear or retraction? See where it says that?
Yes?
And this is not even a month after the incident in which you allege that Mr. Kennedy kicked you in the pelvis and caused you to sustain a rotator cuff tear. Do I have that chronologically in order?
Yes.
By the way, did you know that when you were filling out that incident report in the emergency room on the evening of January 7, 2012, that you failed to document any left shoulder pain or discomfort?
Objection to form.
I do now after I read it.
Was it your left side or your right side that you were kicked on?
Left.
Keeping in mind that you indicated on the evening of the occurrence where you were alleged to have been kicked by Mr. Kennedy with his heel that you wrote down and entered into this report, it was your right hip.
Objection to form. She didn't write it, but you can answer the question. I object to the form of the question.
I was kicked on the left side.
It says, I was kicked and am starting to feel discomfort on my right hip, right shoulder area, and neck. Do you see that?
Yes.
By the way, didn't you tell us it was the left side that you were kicked on?
Yes.
And this was, you know the difference between left and right?
Objection
You know the old joke, the other left?
Objection to form.
Objection to form.
Where does it say you had discomfort in the left hip?
It didn't.
The only hip that is identified in this report on the evening itself as having any type of pain is the right hip. Correct?
That's what it says, yes.
And then it talks about right shoulder area. It doesn't say left shoulder area. Correct?
Correct.
And I still have pain in my arm.
What is your memory now of how much pain you experienced using the pain scale to describe it?
At a 5.
And do you see where it says pain scale?
Yes?
What number does it have next to pain scale?
2.
It doesn't say 5?
No, it does not.
Does that refresh your recollection that the pain, the degree of pain that you experienced on the evening of January 7th, 2012 was 2, not 5, on a scale of 1 to 10?
That's what I reported that night.
Because that information about 2 on a scale of 1 to 10 would have been derived from you, Ms. Lane, right?
Correct.
But today, in this lawsuit, after you've started this lawsuit seeking money from Mr. Kennedy, suddenly the pain has gone from a 2 to a 5.
Objection.
Correct?
Objection to form. Argumentative question anyway. Go ahead, you can answer it.
Yes.
Were you given any pain medication?
No.
What part of your body are you claiming was injured as a result of the incident of January 7, 2012? What parts?
My left arm. I had bruising and injury to the soft tissue surrounding the area between my wrist and my elbow.
No atrophy, erythema, swelling, induration, or ecchymosis, right?
Correct.
Okay, what is ecchymosis?
Layman's terms is bruising.
Now, you said you had some bruising to the soft tissue. Is that, are you talking about being able to visibly observe bruising on your hand, wrist, arm, or?
Not visible, no.
Okay. Is there a medical term for bruising that is not visible to the naked eye?
They can call it a hematoma.
Hematoma. So, have you seen any medical record of yours that documents a hematoma?
Not specifically, no.
Do you like to ski?
Yes?
Water ski?
Yes?
Snow ski?
Yes?
When's the last time you water skied?
The last time I personally water skied?
Yes.
Probably the summer of 2011.
I just want to be clear, are you denying that you water skied in July of 2012?
I don't recall if I did.
And when you water ski, you use both hands and you hold on to, what do you call that? The rope that comes off the back of the boat. There's a handle to hold on to, right?
The tow line?
Tow line. Do you hold on to with both hands when you water ski?
I used to.
You only hold on with one hand now?
In my arm, yes.
How many times since this winter, the winter of 2013, 2014, have you skied, snow skied?
Approximately
Approximately.
4 times.
Now, with respect to the claim of an ulnar nerve damage, I want to take a look at the EMG of May 12, 2012. And you'll see in the findings and impressions box, findings, nerve conduction studies show normal motor and sensory responses. F-wave latencies are normal. Needle EMG examination is normal. Do you see that?
Yes.
That means no nerve damage was detected by this examination, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any current complaints with respect to your left arm?
Yes.
What are they?
I have tingling and numbness frequently in my fourth and fifth fingers on my left hand.
So, do you see where let's just get to the heart of it. You see down at the bottom, impression? No signal abnormality, mass, or disruption of the ulnar nerve is identified to account for the patient's symptomology. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what that doctor is saying there is no anatomical explanation for why you would be complaining of numbness and tingling in your left hand, right?
That's what the impression says, yes.
Okay. Any other part?
Psychological issues.
So when you got to NBC that day at Rockefeller Plaza, where did you go when you first got there?
Down to a room where they were doing other people's like hair and makeup.
And did you they sent you to hair and makeup, right?
Yeah.
Were you suffering from what is called post-traumatic stress disorder at the time you went into hair and makeup to be interviewed by NBC?
Objection to form, but you can answer it. Join.
Yes.
And by the way, were you suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder when you went into hair and makeup in preparation for the television interview?
I was aware I had signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, yes.
Tell us exactly what you did in so violating the law.
Objection to form, you can answer it.
I went into the computer in the nursery when under the baby's last name.
You see that it says, I have a legal obligation to keep confidential all information concerning patients that I may have access to. I understand that unauthorized access and disclosure of any patient information is against the law and can result in criminal action. Do you see where I'm reading from?
Yes, I
And
do.
do you understand that?
Yes,
And you signed and agreed to these 7 terms, including the one I just read, correct?
yes,
Yet you did not have authorized access to Mr. Kennedy's infant son's record, right?
Objection.
Objection, you can answer it.
correct.
So you violated this confidentiality statement that you signed off and made a promise of on March 2nd, 1999, right?
Same objection.
Yes,
And it says, I will not attempt to gain access to areas that are not needed for the performance of my job. Did you need to gain access to infant Kennedy's records in order to carry out the performance of your job?
no,
So you violated that provision as well of this agreement, correct?
yes.
Who is Elliot Taub?
He is my attorney.
And so you understand that Mr. Taub, your lawyer, the personal injury attorney, according to this investigation, was guilty, for lack of a better word, of an unauthorized disclosure of this security video.
Not my objection, you can answer it.
Objection.
Obviously, this document speaks for itself, but you can answer.
I see that here, yes.
You know that your lawyer, Mr. Taub, had seen the video back in January of 2012, right?
Correct,
You showed it to him.
correct.
This video that, according to the hospital, is protected health information, was disclosed by you to Mr. Taub in his office, right?
I showed it to him.
Did you give the video, apart from playing it for him, did you give a video tape or a disc or whatever physical form it existed in to Mr. Taub?
I let him watch it.
Okay. Did you ever inquire as to how that came to be, that Mr. Taub, A, has a copy of it, and B, had his name embedded on it?
Not my objection, assuming facts that are not in evidence, but you can testify.
I actually didn't want to know. I
Do you
was
have the
starting to
exhibit in
read
front
it.
of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you see that part of the exhibit is an email chain between Joel Seligman and Elliot Taub.
I see that it's to Mr. Seligman.
And you know who Mr. Seligman is?
Yes,
Who is that?
he's the CEO of Northern Westchester Hospital.
You told Mr. Taub, you gave him permission to tell parties, like Douglas Kennedy or his lawyer, that if they settled the case and gave you money, you would withdraw your criminal complaint against Douglas Kennedy.
Objection to form, lack
Right.
of foundation, privilege, and you're obviously looking at a document which is the subject of a confidential agreement among 7 lawyers, of which one
Potted
of whom
plant.
breached it.
Just sit there and
She's
be a
not-
potted plant. That's all you have to do, is make your objections.
But she's not
Fact,
gonna answer
you
it.
don't- You see there's a number of demands, 1 through 9, that Mr. Taub made on your behalf and behalf of Ms. Lane with respect to settlement of a potential civil case. Do you see that?
Objection to form, substance, and privilege.
Do you see that?
You can
Yes.
testify.
Do you see that he asked for the hospital to find no violation of HIPAA? Do you see that?
Yes, I see it.
But that would be false, because you have admitted to us under oath today that there was a violation, right?
Not my objection.
Calls for a legal conclusion.
I admitted I went into the demographics of the chart.
That would be wrong to ask Northern Westchester Hospital to find there was no HIPAA violation. Because,
Objection.
in fact, you know there was, right?
Objection.
Note my objection. Objection to the extent it calls for a legal conclusion.
I opened up the babies, yes, yes.
And you see number 4? Oh, it's always about the Benjamins.
Move to
You see
strike.
number 4, you can have it stricken.
Thank you.
You see number 4, where it says a monetary settlement to each nurse, the sum of which is to be agreed upon. Do you see that?
I do.
And so you authorized Mr. Taub to get money for you from Mr. Kennedy or his insurance companies, right?
No, my
Objection, privilege, form, substance. You can answer over objection.
Yes, I agreed.
Did you tell your lawyer to advise them that you wanted Mr. Seligman to personally handwrite letters acknowledging your contributions, accomplishments, and lengthy service to Northern Westchester Hospital? Did you?
objection to
I
the
wanted
form
an
of the
I wanted some
Objection,
recognition.
privilege.
You wanted to make the guy sit down and write out a handwritten letter? Is that what you're telling us?
Same objection.
Objections.
About how great you
Privilege
are?
and form.
But how great I am. I was looking for Mr. Seligman to just write a letter to me.
And you wanted him to specify that it had to be in his handwriting?
Isn't that more personal?
Objection.
Just answer the question.
Yes.
Okay, so just so I know, it came from you and not the lawyer. You wanted Mr. Seligman to sit down and write out a handwritten letter to you talking about your contributions and lengthy service to the hospital,
Objection,
right?
privilege.
Objection, privilege, form.
That was your idea of justice.
Objection.
Not justice.
You can answer it.
Okay. But was that your desire, to have him write such a letter?
That was something I desired.
Okay, so the nurses at the nurses station told you he was the father, and he told you he was the father prior to the time you called Code Pink, right?
Correct.
And you know that a Code Pink is an unauthorized abduction, right?
That is my understanding.
It's an abduction, right?
That is my understanding.
Do you know what the word abduction means?
Yes.
It means stealing, taking something.
Objection. Objection to form.
Yes.
And so you thought that the father was stealing his own baby?
No.
You can read along if you'd like. Do you recall being asked the following questions and giving the following answers at your criminal trial? At page 366, line 23. Question. So even before you get to the elevator, and with the information and knowledge you had as you were walking to the elevator, you insist that the concierge on duty there put in a Code Pink, which was the abduction of an infant child, correct? Answer, yes. Question. And you are aware that this policy, that this is in evidence, it indicates the purpose is to locate infant/child and reunite him with their family as quickly as possible, end quote. That's the purpose of this policy, correct? Answer, correct. Question. And you knew Douglas was family, correct? Answer, as identified by other people. Question. Did you have any question at that point, based on anything anyone said to you, did you have any question that Douglas was the father who wanted to take his child out for fresh air? Answer, no. Do you recall giving those answers to those questions at the criminal trial?
Yes.
And when you testified at the criminal trial, did you answer to the best of your ability to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'm sorry, Lester. I was
Did
reading.
you testify truthfully at the criminal trial?
Yes.
And the testimony that I just read into the record, is that the truth?
Yes.
Is a hospital a prison?
Objection.
You can answer.
You can answer.
No.
Is the father and child there confined against their will?
I don't
As far as you
understand the
know,
question.
I mean, as far as hospital policy is concerned, because you seem to know about hospital policy. Is there policy